Now, why are you helping these raving psychotics?
Because they're very well-funded raving psychotics. And I'm getting a lot of money.
Have you ever watched the action-packed film True Lies and you think you know everything about it? Well, think again, because behind the exciting stunts and top-notch humor are secrets and countless controversies that have made a dent in the movie's reputation for years. From injuries suffered on set to conflicts over how certain characters were played, the truth behind the scenes is actually more dramatic than what meets the eye. Not to mention that one scene where the stunning Jamie Lee Curtis left nothing to the imagination. Just try not to gasp for that one. Prepare to be amazed as we take you on a journey behind the scenes of True Lies and show you the unbelievable facts you may have missed while watching. Jamie's sexy dance, the helicopter stunt, and the jet rental. In one of the famous parts of True Lies, Jamie Lee Curtis did a sexy dance for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was her husband in the movie. But what many people don't know is that something unexpected happened during the dance. Before we get into it, we bet it's not the only thing that's sure to shock you in the movie's bloopers. I mean, during the filming of a dangerous scene in True Lies, Jamie Lee Curtis refused to use a stunt double. She wanted to do the stunt herself. In the scene, Curtis had to hang from a helicopter high above the ocean. Even though a professional stunt person could have done it, Curtis insisted on doing it herself. As an actress known for her bravery, Curtis wanted to take on the challenge. When the director, James Cameron, suggested using a stunt double, Curtis said no. She felt that if Cameron was willing to film the scene while hanging from the helicopter, she should do the same as the performer. Curtis asked Cameron where he would be during the risky aerial filming. When he said he'd be hanging from the helicopter door to film her up close, Curtis was inspired to match his commitment. To make the stunt even more challenging, Curtis wanted to do it on her 36th birthday as a personal milestone. She spent weeks practicing every move, preparing herself mentally and physically for the demanding task. When the day of the stunt arrived, Curtis showed remarkable bravery. Not minding the dangers, she remained calm and focused as the helicopter accelerated to 70 miles per hour, pulling her body beyond the safety of the craft. She had to stay calm and maintain a precise form throughout the stress. We all know Tom Arnold's role as the funny sidekick Albert Gibson in the movie True Lies brought lots of laughs to the audience. But one of the most memorable lines wasn't actually in the original script. It was actually added on the spot by Arnold himself. The real-life troubles he was having in his marriage inspired this line. In one scene, Gibson talked to Harry Tasker, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, about his suspicions that his wife Helen was cheating on him. During this chat, Gibson shared a story about his own bitter divorce experience. He vented his frustration about his ex-wife taking everything, even the ice cube trays from the freezer. What's interesting is that this joke about the ice cube trays wasn't planned. It came from Tom Arnold's own life at the time. He was going through a public divorce from his then-wife, Roseanne Barr, and there were rumors that she had taken the ice cube trays from their home out of spite. Arnold shared this story with the director, James Cameron, who saw its comedic potential and decided to put it in the film. He even had Arnold say the line during the heartfelt conversation between Gibson and Tasker. The joke perfectly captured Gibson's character as a cynical man still hurting from his failed marriage. His resentment over something as small as the ice cube trays depicted the lingering bitterness often felt after a divorce. When filming True Lies, director James Cameron insisted on using authentic military aircraft, even if it meant renting 3 Marine Harrier fighter jets from the United States government. This decision wasn't easy or cheap, costing a whopping $100,000. Each hour of flight time for these high-tech jets costs the production company $2,410. The best part is that the stunning footage Cameron captured justified the expense, so it added an impressive realism that visual effects couldn't match. Legendary actor Charlton Heston's character in True Lies, Spencer Trilby, drew inspiration from Marvel Comics' Nick Fury. Just like Fury, Trilby wore an eye patch and led a secret government organization dedicated to fighting terrorism. Trilby's organization, Omega Sector, resembled Fury's legendary Shield and Strike outfits. Like Fury, Trilby commanded a team of highly trained agents who tackled global threats undercover, mastering tango dancing and the rewritten comedy. Did you know that although Arnold Schwarzenegger played his role perfectly, he had a challenge he'd never faced before? It was mastering the art of tango dancing. In one scene, his character Harry had to tango convincingly with his on-screen wife, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. This was a big difference from his usual action-packed roles, requiring him to showcase a different kind of skill. To prepare for this romantic dance sequence, Schwarzenegger started a grueling 6-month regimen of tango lessons. Under the guidance of professional instructors, he worked tirelessly to perfect his moves. He drew inspiration from Al Pacino's acclaimed tango choreography in Scent of a Woman, aiming to match or even surpass Pacino's mastery. Schwarzenegger approached the challenge with his trademark determination and perfectionism. He saw it as an opportunity to prove himself as a versatile actor. Despite the punishing training, his chemistry and precision with Curtis improved their tango routine. When the moment finally arrived for Harry to sweep Helen into his arms and take her to the dance floor, Schwarzenegger's movements exuded confidence and grace. His hard work paid off, resulting in a performance that showed a different side of the action icon. Now, how about we get into the mystery of where Harry Tasker got his grenades for that one scene about the big showdown with terrorists? While it's not strange for a super spy like Tasker to have grenades, these actually have a unique storyline that didn't make it into the final movie. Originally, there was a scene planned where a woman named Juno Skinner puts a grenade between Harry's wife Helen's legs during a kidnapping attempt. She tells Helen to keep her legs closed to avoid setting it off. Helen, being brave and witty, responds with a sarcastic comment about Skinner's experience in that situation. Later, after escaping, Harry gets the grenade back from his wife, using her diamond earring to repin the trigger safely. This clever move allows Harry to use the grenade as a weapon against the terrorists later on. Even though this scene was cut for pacing reasons, it would have added extra tension and irony to the big moment when Harry uses the grenade. Without this context, Harry's sudden skill with the grenade might seem a bit out of nowhere in an otherwise well-plotted movie. These aren't the only shocking facts about the movie. I bet you didn't see this next one coming. When James Cameron took on directing True Lies, he planned to add humor to the action-packed plot. At first, external writers tried to infuse the script with jokes, but Cameron wasn't satisfied. So he took matters into his own hands and rewrote all the comedic parts himself. Even though he had always been known for his stoic films like Aliens and Terminator 2, Cameron surprised everyone by incorporating a really good sense of humor into True Lies. He carefully adjusted the dialogue and plot points to match his comedic style, which was quite different from what was originally written. In the end, only 2 jokes from the original script made it into Cameron's version. One of these was Arnold Schwarzenegger's famous "You're fired" line, delivered in a memorable scene where he launches a missile at a villain. From Tom Arnold's spontaneous jokes to Jamie Lee Curtis's mix of glamour and self-deprecating humor, Cameron's unconventional approach led to some of the film's funniest moments. Tom Arnold's dream role as the goofy sidekick Albert Gibson in True Lies almost didn't come to reality. The studio, 20th Century Fox, initially opposed Arnold's participation due to his troubled public image. At the time, Arnold was still dealing with the fallout from his messy divorce from comedian Roseanne Barr. The highly publicized split, filled with accusations of infidelity and legal battles had tarnished Arnold's reputation, making him a controversial celebrity in Hollywood. But even with the studio's reservations, Arnold eventually landed the role. Fox executives were worried about adding someone with a history of negative attention to one of their most important movies. Director James Cameron, though, stood firm on his choice for the role, believing Arnold's lively acting and ability to improvise would create a perfect comedic balance against Schwarzenegger's serious character. Cameron pushed so hard for Arnold that he was ready to take the project elsewhere if Fox said no. Faced with losing their top director, Fox eventually agreed to Cameron's request to cast Arnold in True Lies. It turned out to be a smart move. Arnold's comedic talents and his chemistry with Schwarzenegger were praised by both critics and audiences when the film was released. If Fox had stuck to their initial concerns about Arnold's personal controversies, True Lies might have missed out on one of its most memorable performances. In the end, thankfully, the gamble paid off. Then there were Eliza Dushku's stunt injuries. A few years after True Lies was released, something very problematic happened. Eliza Dushku made disturbing allegations about how she was treated as a child performer on the set of the movie. She played the daughter of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis's characters. She claimed she was a victim of very inappropriate behavior from a member of the cast and even sustained injuries as a result of negligence from the crew. Oh, there's more. She also mentioned that when she was only 12 years old, she was approached with flagrant sexual innuendos and vile flirtatious comments from an unnamed stunt coordinator who was a part of the production team. The severity of these alleged comments and innuendos caused her parents to take legal action and request a certain monetary compensation be paid to Eliza by the studio. Who do you think the stunt coordinator was? To make matters worse, Eliza also allegedly suffered physical wounds during a dangerous stunt when the rigging that was meant to protect her failed to work. According to news from her interviews, she accidentally hit her ribs against a boxing platform after being thrown in the air while the cameras were still rolling. Although she now makes sure to avoid the celebrity spotlight after the whole True Lies ordeal, Eliza Dushku's recent claims have made a huge dent in the film's impressive reputation for ignoring proper set organization just to their budget. The near-death experience. Now, back to that sexy scene we hinted at the start of the video. While Curtis was dancing and taking off her clothes, leaving nothing to the viewers and Schwarzenegger's imaginations, she slipped and fell to the floor. At first, people thought it wasn't planned. It just happened while they were filming. But Curtis revealed later that it was actually planned. Although she didn't want to have to fall more than twice while wearing heels, because she said she could easily twist her ankle. After she fell, she kept her cool and continued the dance like nothing happened. Schwarzenegger's character, Harry Tasker, looked surprised when she fell, but then he also played along and got back into the scene. His real brief surprise made the scene even funnier. Instead of redoing the scene, the director, James Cameron, decided to keep it in the movie. He thought that Curtis and Schwarzenegger's genuine reactions made the scene even better. So, in the end, they left the footage as it was. The success of True Lies in 1994 set the stage for a highly anticipated sequel, but plans ended after the infamous attack. The film's themes of explosive action and terrorism suddenly became too sensitive in the aftermath of the national tragedy. Both director James Cameron and star Arnold Schwarzenegger were eager to reunite for True Lies 2, intending to continue the story of spy Harry Tasker and his wife Helen into the late 90s. Over the years, the creative team worked hard on crafting a script that not only matched, but exceeded the audacious set pieces of the original. It's unfortunate that the planned sequel had the potential to be another blockbuster hit, but the cancellation left fans disappointed. As the events of the infamous attack unfolded and people grew more afraid of extremism, it became clear that making an action movie about terrorism wasn't a good idea anymore. Even though it could have raked in a lot of money for them, James Cameron realized it would seem very insensitive and offensive to treat such a serious topic lightly. In the early 2000s, people were scared to do literally anything, even flying on planes. A sequel where Harry fights Middle Eastern villains just didn't fit with the general public's emotions. The funny parts that were supposed to balance out the action in True Lies now seemed like they were ignoring the reality of things and what was happening outside the screen's fourth wall. While filming a major scene for the movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger had a close call with death. It was during an action sequence involving a large passenger jet on an Air Force base runway. Schwarzenegger's character was supposed to hitch a ride on the outside of the taxiing airplane as it prepared for takeoff. But he didn't know there was a last-minute miscommunication between the stunt team and the pilots. Thinking Schwarzenegger had received the signal to detach from the plane before takeoff, the pilots revved up the jet engines to full power, unaware that the action star was still clinging to the fuselage. The shocking mistake put Schwarzenegger's life in danger as he hung onto the plane while the engines furiously came to life. In a split second, the plane surged down the runway, its huge force pushing it at more than 120 miles per hour. Luckily, Schwarzenegger's fast reactions saved him. He quickly disconnected his safety rope just in time, tumbling away from the jet before it took off. If he had stayed connected a moment longer, the strong forces and wind could have smashed him into the runway or the plane's engines. Schwarzenegger later said it was one of the scariest moments in his whole action career, which was filled with intense scenes and daring stunts. Thankfully, he managed to avoid serious injury or worse, and he lived to promote True Lies for another day. There was a video game based on the movie, but it's pretty much forgotten now. It came out in 1994, right after the movie, hoping to ride on its success. In the game, players have to be Harry Tasker and go on secret missions all over the world, using cool weapons and gadgets to fight bad guys. Even though a big game studio, Pandemic Studios, made it and it had the official license, the True Lies video game didn't sell very well. When it first got released for the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and personal computer, the True Lies game didn't get much attention. Other movie-based games were more popular at the time, so True Lies faded into the background. But as time passed, the game gained a small group of fans who collected old games. Still, many people who love the original James Cameron movie don't even know there's a game based on it. For those who do find the game after watching this video, a little heads up that those who have played it say it's not very good. They've complained that it didn't get the movie's exciting scenes and interesting dialogue. The movie's inclusion of Arab and Middle Eastern characters as terrorist villains has also received a lot of backlash and criticism after its release. While True Lies wasn't meant to tackle serious political issues, its use of stereotypes upset many people who wanted Hollywood to show cultures more accurately. One of the main points of contention was Art Malik's performance as the villain, Salim Abu Aziz. Malik's role leaned heavily on exaggerated gestures and a strong accent, which quickly labeled his character as a menacing Arab figure. This came at a time when prejudices against Arabs were high, especially after the Gulf War. They felt that using that kind of role, especially in a big-budget action film, supported the negative perceptions of Arab people. Despite being of Pakistani descent himself, Malik received backlash for representing stereotypes that combined the contradicting ethnicities and beliefs of the Middle East into one extremely violent character. Critics argued that True Lies irresponsibly increased irrational fears and prejudices against minority groups. The debates surrounding Malik's role are still sometimes the talk of the town, which fans of the entertainment industry wake up, some choose arguments. Are you, by chance, one of these fans? What's your opinion about the role? There's another scene in the movie where Harry Tasker gets into a big fight in a bathroom with some bad guys. The initial plan was that this fight was supposed to be much longer and more intense. They wanted it to be a huge brawl, with Harry taking on a whole group of armed attackers all by himself. The plan was to make it look as realistic as possible, with legendary stunt coordinator Benny Dobbins choreographing the whole thing. In this epic version, Harry would have used everyday objects like toilet plungers as weapons, and he would have smashed up the bathroom, taking down each bad guy one by one in a really intense and violent way. Benny Dobbins had big ideas for how to film this fight, with lots of different camera angles and fancy choreography. But as they started planning it out, they realized it might be too much. They were worried that the violence and complexity of the scene would get out of control and be too overwhelming for the audience. So they had to scale back their plans and make the fight shorter and less intense. Even though the shorter version is still exciting to watch, it doesn't have the same impact as the original idea of Harry winning against impossible odds with sheer determination. So, did you know all these facts or pick up on the bloopers and behind-the-scenes mistakes when you first saw the movie? Let us know which one shocked you the most in the comments. Thank you for watching this video until the end. We hope you enjoyed every bit of it and hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget to leave a and subscribe to our channel. It'll mean a lot.